doing great stuff, and we didn't try to replicate that functionality. So it's really like players in a band. Like, you know, your drummer and your keyboardist are doing different things. And so you select them for different skills. So Webb is really designed to do the things that Hubble can't. It has much greater spectroscopic capabilities than Hubble, so we can really see what the universe is made of, which is great because that's part of what my research is. I love spectroscopy. What's stuff made of? And then the other part is that we're operating in the infrared with Webb. So we're looking, the bluest light that Webb can see is like a dusky red, like red wine. And then it just gets redder from there, right? So whereas Hubble can see into the near infrared, and then it can see pretty hard into the ultraviolet, like bluer than cats or bees can see.
Okay, yeah. It's going to be really great. I'm very excited for them both to be working together up there. And back to Hubble, Patty, could you just sort of tell us how Hubble's doing these days? How long we can expect it to last?
Sure, absolutely. So Hubble is actually doing great. And it was launched in 1990, so it's coming up on its 32nd birthday in space. That is a long time for an observatory to be in space. It's in a low Earth orbit, and its orbit was chosen so that it could be rendezvoused with the space shuttle. And astronauts could actually grab it and bring it back into the bay there and service it. What servicing meant was that it could refurbish the instruments, refurbish the computer, the power systems, and this was done 5 times during the lifetime of Hubble. During the last servicing mission, the astronauts worked very hard to leave the telescope at the peak of its capabilities. And ever since then, there's been a team of engineers and scientists working together on the ground to extend the lifetime as much as possible. So we're expecting Hubble to continue into the next decade so that we can squeeze as much great science out of Hubble as possible.
That's fantastic. Thank you, guys. All right, so bear with me for a second. We've been getting some questions from social media, so let's see if there's anything we can talk about here. Okay, so we did talk about this a little bit earlier, but maybe, Patty, if you want to go into this a little bit more. Someone on YouTube is just curious, more knowing about how we can tell this is a star rather than, you know, a galaxy, basically. Or Jane, if you want to take that one on, sure. Either way.
I can take that one.
Okay.
So the main constraint that it has to be really small. So the main constraint is that it's really small and really bright. And so the size constraint comes mostly from the fact that in the images, it looks like a dot. It's round. It isn't stretched. And if it had any significant size, like bigger than the size of our solar system, then given the really high magnification, we would see it stretched. But we don't. We see it as a dot. And so that places a really strict limit on the size. In the paper, we give it in terms of, but it, you know, it's got to, they're all about the size of the solar system. So it's got to be smaller than like out to Pluto, right? So that's one constraint. It's got to be something that fits in a small box. Okay. And given that really high magnification, something like thousands, and it's whether it's 1,000 or 10,000, we showed a bunch of different models to show that it's somewhere in that range, okay? So you have something that's given its brightness and magnified by factors of 1,000, well, that's like 1,000,000 times the mass of the sun, 1,000,000 times the luminosity, the brightness of the sun, okay? So, all right, what is out there that is bright as 1,000,000 suns and fits in our solar system? Well, that's really very massive stars, or binaries, could be binary, or it could be a accreting black hole. But we also know it hasn't changed in brightness. So we have observations. Hubble has observed this star multiple times, in part to look for supernova, to look for lensed exploding stars. And in those multiple epochs, we don't see any sign that it's changed brightness. So one of the characteristic features of accreting black holes is that they go up and down in brightness and they change. And so we think the most likely explanation in the paper is that this really is a massive star.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for sending in these questions on social media. I think we are unfortunately running out of time for today, though, so we're going to have to wrap things up. But thank you all for tuning in to learn more about Hubble's discovery of the farthest individual star ever seen. This is a really cool story, so if you want to find out more, be sure to check out nasa.gov/Hubble. And as always, you can keep up with Hubble on social media at NASA Hubble on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Advanced Air Mobility, or AAM, is a new transportation system that allows us to get between cities, allows us to move passengers and cargo on an on-demand fashion. It's new and exciting. It allows us to have these new vehicle configurations that were never dreamed of before. So AAM is the way of the future for aeronautics. One area that now